We built this platform for stories unfold. Mindset to manuscript, speaking truth bold.
Diverse voices from the street to the stage. Your voice deserves to shake this ground. We coach, we write, we amplify sound.
Mindset to manuscripts on the scene. Now's the time, the place, the dream. Tell your story and get it straight. Mindset to manuscript. Mindset to manuscript. Hosted by JT Key.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this episode of Mindset to Manuscript with JT. Speak your truth. Today, I have the pleasure of having a phenomenal guest in the Democratic Committee join us from Florida, Dr. Bernard Jennings, Dr. Bernard W.H. Jennings. Dr. Jennings has been doing some miraculous things in the legislative community, particularly with House Bill 775. We have him here to just talk about his journey to getting this Good Dad Act up and running into law, starting with the state of Florida, which is huge for unwed fathers. So we really want him, and we look forward to hearing you tell us about your journey, moments where you might have felt powerless even in this journey, and then ultimately your power was able to empower others, and ultimately driving that directive of power and being power driven to take it beyond Florida and to other states. So let's start there. Just start with the roots of this. I know this is around your son Ethan, House Bill 775, but tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and your wonderful audience about my personal trial and tribulation. That first I was like, this is a terrible thing happening to me. But I've over time, I've matured in what has happened and accept that I now have a responsibility from God to do what I'm doing. Some time ago, about 2 years ago, my son's mother decided she no longer wanted to co-parent with me. We weren't together as a relationship. Our relationship broke up probably about 7 years ago, and she was doing her own thing. I was doing my own thing. And then I sent out a wedding announcement the summer of 2022, I believe it was, that I was marrying somebody else. Immediately after that, about a week later, I would say all hell broke loose. She demanded that she take control of my son and not let me see him anymore. She removed him from the school where I had him. It was a private school. I had him on the weekends and she had him on weekdays. And when she found out about the wedding invitation, she went to the school and removed him on my day of my pickup, which was a Friday. And I went to the school to get him. And she said, oh, your son's no longer here. His mother picked him up this morning. I'm like, it's Friday. I'm supposed to get him. And they knew there was an arrangement. So, well, she said she withdrew him from school. She didn't tell us what school he's moving to. And she said he wasn't coming back anymore. I said, what about his scholarship? He has a Step Up for Students scholarship. It's a Florida scholarship. No, she canceled the scholarship. So immediately when they said she's canceled scholarship, I'm like, okay, this is permanent. What's going on? Right. I tried to call her. She didn't answer the phone. I called her mother. Mother didn't answer the phone. The father responded and said that he'll try to get a hold of her. About 5 minutes later, I left the school. He called back and said, listen, she said she's gone and she's not giving me her whereabouts and she's not telling me where her and your son are going. So what ended up happening is that I just said, okay, maybe she's doing something, just relax, chill about it. And then sometime later that day, I tried to still make contact, couldn't make contact. A month went by and I'm just worried this whole time, where's my son? So I was able to get a hearing before a judge to ask a judge to let me have the visitation time, because clearly I was going to get that from her, right? Talking to her parents. And then I had a Zoom call where I was able to get her served on the Zoom court hearing. And I told the judge, my son, he's been with me since birth. The mother's not co-parenting with me anymore. And she had an attorney on her end of it. I didn't have an attorney on my side. I said, Your Honor, can I have visitation with my son? She said, well, under Florida law, Mr. Jennings, you're on the birth certificate. I even turned in a DNA test to the courts. You have a DNA test that says you're 99.9991 cannot be excluded as a father, but that's presumptive. We have to have a court hearing, a trial that could take anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Wow.
And then the courts have to decide. Florida law says that the mother is the natural born guardian of the child when you're not married. So it's her child technically right now until the court decides, the judge decides that you are the father. Like, okay, well, she's here now, Your Honor. How can we, let's work that out. Well, you have to file certain papers in the court for paternity. It's called paternity.
Right.
You have to serve her those papers, Mrs. Jennings. I said, well, she's moved about a month now. I don't know her address. She even gave fake addresses to get to this hearing right here. That's why we're in the Zoom. Can you give her an order to let me serve her and give me the address? She said, no, I cannot do that. You have to hire a private investigator or hire an attorney, and then you can serve her. I'm like, well, I did that. I went through all these channels to serve her, and that's not working. Can I just ask them right now? So I said, go ahead, ask her attorney. So I asked her attorney, will you accept service? The attorney said no. So I said, can I ask my son's mother? He said, yes. The attorney interrupted. I'm not going to let her answer that question because we haven't had a chance to talk about it. So I'm not going to let her answer that question. I said, Your Honor, can you give me an order for them to accept service? Because, Mr. Jennings, I can't do that. I want to help you, but you're going to have to figure this out. Either hire an attorney, get a private investigator, figure out where they're on server, and then that's all I can do for you. Have a nice day. And she ended the Zoom call.
Wow. Wow.
I was like, oh, wow. I was so like mesmerized by the whole thing. The first thing that came to my head was that picture of the Joker on the Batman movie where he's kind of deranged. That's how I felt.
Right.
And I slammed my computer down and I thought about it for a minute. Man, I've heard this happening to other people in the past. And I didn't think to do anything about it.
Right.
But this can't go on. This is not right. I've been involved with my son from birth. I was there at the birth. I'm very active. I'm a doting dad. I said, you know what? I know I can change the law myself because I know I worked in elected officials campaigns. I know people. I'm going to write a proposal. And I opened my laptop back and I just started writing and wrote a proposal. Over the next couple of days, I did some research and I submitted it to the state legislature, to a couple of different state representatives. And a lot of them told me, no, we can't do anything. We only get 7 pieces of legislations per session. It was already like into October of that year. And I found this one representative, Christopher Benjamin. He said, let me accept it and send it up to the courts, to the legislative body that makes the decision to make it into a bill.
Okay.
So he did that. And about a week later, 7:30 in the morning, I got a call. Bernard, they said it's legally sufficient. We're going to make it a bill and try to change the law. I was like, okay. So 8 months later, to fast forward, it passed the House and the Senate. Each committee had a representative from the Senate side accept the bill also. There was 0 opposition going through. Meanwhile, I was going through the court stuff with my son's mother to get time and having mediation and a biased mediator, I felt at the time, because she said nothing could be done about it and she wasn't agreeing to anything. But July 1st, 2023, the law changed, called Ethan's Good Dad Act. It's House Bill 775. The legal name is Parental Responsibility After the Determination of Paternity, which pretty much says now that when a father steps up and he's already on the birth certificate, he now has the same rights and responsibilities the mother has as if they're married, although they're not.
Dr. Jennings, can you repeat that?
Yes, it's called House Bill 775, Parental Responsibility After the Determination of Paternity. In short, it's called Ethan's Good Dad Act.
Okay.
Named after my son, and the book, as you see, the book.
Yes.
And then what it says now, that when a father steps up, he's on a birth certificate, they sign an acknowledgement. At some point, the parents got along. He now has the same rights and responsibility that the mother has. Equal rights to education, equal rights to the visitation, equal rights to decisions for medical. And she cannot just pick up and leave out of the county like my son's mother. She left another county, didn't know where she was. They can't do that.
Right. And this impacts not just you, but it impacts the entire family.
And yeah, because when a child is separated from one parent, be it the mother or the father, then what about the grandmother in that side of the family? What about the uncles, the aunts, the brothers and sisters, the cousins? The child loses out. Forget about me. The child loses out on that relationship and that legacy of the family. And some people go through this for 10 years. I know one guy that was a friend of my father's. He used to work with him, that when I was 11, 12 years old, this happened to him. And I witnessed him crying to my dad about not being seeing his daughter, Courtney. as of this year, that daughter is 35 years old, and he has not seen his daughter since she was 7 years old. The mother has moved away and he doesn't know where she is.
Wow.
So I didn't want that to happen to me. I said, I'm going to change this. And that's what we did.
That's what you did. That's amazing. How about you? How was your growing up and your relationship with your dad?
Oh, I had a great, my mother and father were divorced. But when I was 11 years old, I went to live with my dad here in Florida, and had a great relationship with my dad and my mother. Would go back and forth and visit. And then, I grew up in the house with my dad, who I think he did a good job, you ask me, with me. But he taught me a great work ethic, and I appreciate my dad. I think of him often. He's not with us anymore.
Okay.
Neither's my mother. Okay. But thanks to them,
sorry for your loss.
I had the noggins to do what needs to be done and the grit to see it through. My dad taught me that if you start something, finish it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm super excited, everyone, to have Dr. Bernard Wh Jennings here. He's the initiator of the Good Dad Act, president and CEO of Biscayne Gardens Chamber of Commerce and in Florida. So thank you so much for joining Mindset to Manuscript. I want to talk a little bit more about your journey and just some of the other things that you feel do you feel like this might go beyond Florida? Is it still just Florida? And where do you see this going for the community in general?
Well, after this happened, about 2 months after the judge ruled in my favor, I represented myself in court the next 6 months after the law change. And in my final hearing with the judge, I asked the judge to please abide by the law. And I didn't brag that I changed the law. I just talked about the law and submitted information about the law, and she agreed with me. And then she ruled an order about a week later after the trial that I would have 50-50 with my son. I have him from Friday to Friday, 50-50. I'm involved with all decision making. Since that time, my son has now been placed in a gifted program in his school. The weeks that I have him, I start work at 12:30 noon. I go pick him up from school, help him with his homework, get him a snack, we do some stuff and whatever, and just coach him about different things. And then rinse, wash, and repeat for the next day like any other parent would. And then he goes back to his mother that Friday. And since that time, I've had these Google Meets every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. This coming Tuesday will be our 103rd meeting. We haven't missed a Tuesday night, where fathers from all around the country, not just Florida, come into School Meet to talk about their issues. And we invite an attorney on or a sitting judge to talk to these dads. And I've appointed team leaders in 16 other states. I'm happy to announce that we've passed similar legislation as the Good Dad Act in New Jersey, Missouri, Alabama, and North Carolina and Tennessee go into effect July 1 coming. So we're in 6 states now. Ethan's Good Dad Act. If you Google it, you'll see it come up.
Excellent. Can you say those 6 states again?
It's Missouri, New Jersey, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Florida and Alabama. And
people can just Google that and they'll get information on the Good Dad Act.
Yeah, if you put Good Dad Act and then put the state, you'll see if it's in that state. And then some states have initiated legislation. They're not calling it the Good Dad Act. For example, Kentucky.
Yes.
But if you read the bill and you look at what we have, it's the same wording. So, and in some states, which I predicted this would happen, once we get it going in a few states, the different attorneys and legislatures will hear about it and they'll initiate their own thing. A lot of stuff starts in Florida or some other states and it kind of trickles throughout the country, either through advocacy or because it's in the media and someone said, that's a good idea, let's do it as well.
Yeah, sure. So tell me a little bit about Ethan, your little boy. How old is he now?
So Ethan's 10 years old now.
Okay.
And he does the morning announcements in school. He's in a public school.
Okay.
And he's very outgoing. I take him to different business meetings. When I was little, my mother was a real estate broker and she would take me to volunteer different political campaigns. And then when I went to move my dad when I was 11, he would take me to work to do construction with him. Okay. So I kind of do the same thing with my son. I'm like 2 peas in a bucket with him. And you see his picture in the background there. I take him to different public meetings when I go and people know who he is. If I go someplace without Ethan, it's often, where's Ethan? Like, he's at home. I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah. What about me? Right? Yeah.
About me. Yeah. But he's well-rounded and he's been shielded from a lot of this stuff. But
okay, I was going to ask that.
Naturally, he knows what's going on. He knows about the book. Okay. Incidentally, I just won from the International Fathers Association I just won Fathers of the Year this past Father's Day.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing.
And he was with me, and he was able to crown me with this crown, and I got this big check, this giant check as a gift, and a trophy and a plaque. And he was able to speak on the mic and say what it meant to him. And it was a great experience to see him just so glee about me getting Father of the Year. He's been bragging about it to his friends, and he even told me he bragged to his mom.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this is that moment where, you're on Speak Your Truth. So how is that relationship now with his mom, now that you've gone through this? Has it softened? Is it still where it was? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Unfortunately, the relationship with me and her is still nil. We communicate only through a parenting app.
Okay.
And it's very contentious. If anything I say to her in the app, she kind of spins it into an argument still. She's upset still. We're not having conversation and discourse personally, but clearly in the writing, it's like she's not accepting, and we're supposed to have liberal conversations with the child, depending who has the child. And when he's with me, I'll call, and the call doesn't go through, or he's doing something else. And if he asks her to allow him to speak to me, she says later or no. Whereas with me, if he says, "Can I speak to my mom?" I'll hand him my phone. "Here, go call." I turn on the app for him and let him call her. But there's still tension there. I don't know. I don't think that's going to end anytime soon. So I've sort of accepted for what it is, and just focus on the things that are working.
Yes.
And negative in our life, you'll be in the negative spin.
I love that.
Yeah. You let the positive come through and focus on that. You think about these other things, but you don't let it ride you. I know that I'm going to see him on Friday. I know he's safe.
I think that's amazing. And if you had to talk to young or men in general who may be in the states that this is going into law in, or not in the states, or going through something similar to this, what kind of advice would you offer to them, particularly those who may not be on the radar right now?
Well, we do actually talk to them with this meeting that we have every Tuesday night. We have about 25 people on the Google Meet that are members of the committee. And then we sometimes do it live on Facebook. And then if you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Good Dad Act, you can see some of the other podcasts like you have us here. Then you can see the conversation. So we give these dads advice how to be calm, especially when they're dealing with court. You can't be upset for a man going to court. You need to be very calm and reserved, and don't be triggered by what you're hearing on the other side, because you're going to be judged walking in the door. You want to go to court dressed properly, not even with a shirt like this. Come in shirt and tie, like you're going to your best church service or somebody's, I wouldn't say funeral, someone's wedding. That's how you want to dress. And then keep a notepad with you, and you're going to hear negative stuff, things that are not true. Don't look over and act all flared up and making faces to the judge and nodding your head no. Just write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and when it's your turn to speak, if you don't have an attorney, if you have an attorney, let your attorney speak. If you don't have an attorney, you want to say, "Your Honor, may I speak now? I have written down 3 or 4 things I'd like to address based upon what was said. May I do so?" When the judge says, "Go ahead, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. What happens when fathers go to court, or anybody goes to court, you're in such a fury of what's going on, and you're just letting out all the baby bathwater on the issue.
Right.
You can't win like that. Court is about a measured step of things. That's why court takes so long, because each hearing is about one motion, about whatever's in the 4 corners of that piece of paper. And if you're throwing everything out at the judge, it's just confusing, and it's confused the other side. The judge has only limited time to deal with the case. There's many cases, and the more confusing it is, the more time it's going to take to resolve the issue. That means that's going to cost you more money and less time to see your child, because it takes time to get to that point, to get this determination to see your child. So that's the advice that we try to give on these Tuesday night calls. We have a website called www.gooddadact.com, where fathers can go there, and we actually have some of this. We have a blog that we put out once a month or twice a month that gives different tips to dads, like you're asking, but what you do in this situation. How do you deal with the child's mother when she's not communicating? How do you deal with your anger issues? How do you deal with your child? How do you deal with other relationship now that you're not with the child's mother? How do you cope? So we put that on the website for dads. We have other things on there for them, because you need money to pay for your child support. So
Can you
a really
repeat that? Can you repeat that website and also the Facebook page as well?
yeah. The website is www.gooddadact.com,
Okay.
or on Facebook it's facebook.com/gooddadact, and even on Instagram it's instagram.com/gooddadact.
Great. Excellent. Yeah, there's definitely, I'm sure, a space where people who are lost, maybe don't know exactly direction to turn, or don't know that there is a direction
Yeah.
to turn, don't realize that there is an advocate out there, think that they don't have a choice. Now, you said that this is geared primarily to fathers, but their name has to be on the birth certificate, or is it just the DNA?
Well, this law, that's the way it's written, that if the father is already on the birth certificate prior to coming to court for the assistance because they're not getting along, then this law invokes him, that he established his own paternity. In all 50 states, it said prior to this that the mother is the natural born guardian of the child. It doesn't even mention the dad in the legislation.
Right.
So this says, okay, the father and the mother walk into court with the same presumption, equality.
Okay.
In the state of Florida, another bill passed, 1301, about 2 months later, said now because of the Good Debt Act that he has equality with her, he has 50% timeshare rights. So
Nice.
he has the ability to have 50% as long as he lives within 50 miles of the child. And then she has a rebuttable presumption. Prior to this, you have to prove you're a good dad. Now the burden shifts. She has to prove you're a bad dad. So it can't be, oh, he's a liar, he's a cheater, or he wasn't a good boyfriend, because he may be all those things, truthfully, but that doesn't mean he's not gonna be a good dad.
Right.
Right. So now the burden shifts, that she has to prove in that day in court that he's either guilty with a court order of child molestation against that child, or guilty of domestic violence against that child. And if not, then he's entitled to 50-50. Now, if it's domestic violence against the mother and the child was present, to what degree, what happened, then the judge has to follow this other statute in Florida called the Best Interest Statute 61, that gives the judge a little discretion subjectively to, if the guy's not really, he's got a criminal record, or he's a drug dealer or something like that, which is a lot of those allegations come that are not true. Sometimes they are true, but then the judge has discretion to, maybe don't give him all that time, maybe give him a limited amount of time.
Wow. A little bit of wondering, and maybe a little controversial query on my end, but I know that you speak about what he would have to do, or what the mom would have to prove. Is this this is gender based? So right now in our society, there are couples that might be same sex couples, for instance, and there may be disdain in that avenue as well. Is this a gender-based legislator, or is this a relationship-based legislator in terms of if we together went and we had a child together and I'm on the birth certificate and then we don't get along regardless of my gender, does this still, do these rights still pertain to that person?
Well, remember, these child custody issues are state law issues.
Okay.
So as we've passed it in Florida and these 5 other states, they're different. Okay. So as you move throughout the country, California, some places are more liberal. You got Connecticut, New York. As the law is adjusted in different states, you may have a different outlook of how this law turns out, because the law, the people are different places, and the way they interpret the law is different in different places, right? So in Florida, it addresses as a mother and father as a man and a woman. That's how it addresses. So this is speaking in the state of Florida as a man and a woman. So in an instance where say there's a married couple and they have a child and they separate, and say they're two men, because that exists in some places, right?
Yes.
This law doesn't speak to the gender of the 2 men. It speaks to a mother and a father.
Yeah.
Unless that state does it something different. So a lot of states do address the mother-father relationship outside of this legislation. In some places, it's not full equality. They just say, oh, well, it's suggested that the child should have a 2-parent household, or that it should be to look to 2 parents. But in most states, it's not specific to that, as if Florida is. Florida's this Good Debt Act is so basic, so that when a mother and father are not married, and the father steps up and he's on the birth certificate, he signed the acknowledgement of parenting, then he has the same rights and responsibilities as she does. It's very limited. So what does that mean?
Right.
That's why this other bill 1301 said it's 50-50.
Right.
A terrible state to have a child, if I can talk about another state, is Georgia. Georgia has something called legitimization,
Okay.
and then paternity, and then visitation. So you have to go and first establish the legitimization of the child, the fact that the child, it's an old slave issue where an illegitimate person who's born a bastard child, it was to protect the plantation owner from this child stepping up and inheriting, because the slaves were the slave master was having sex with the slaves.
Wow. Yes.
So, and then if the child grows up and got his legal rights and he want to sue the slave master or approach him and get the inheritance of the property, that's my dad. So that was to stop that, so that it would cause this child to come, the person to come up and legitimize who he is with the father's permission.
Wow.
So Georgia still has that. You have to legitimize the child, the child.
Wow.
And then after you legitimize the child, then you have to establish paternity. But paternity only means you have a financial responsibility. It doesn't mean you get visitation.
Wow.
And then after paternity, then you can ask for visitation rights. And then you go through a whole other trial to get visitation. That would have happened to me in Florida. I would have to establish paternity first, and then come back and have a trial for visitation. So, it's complex. And a lot of fathers now are on the move, even on social media. When you look at Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, you can Google Good Dad Act, and you'll see a bunch of stuff about Good Dad, other attorneys talking about it now.
Wow.
There's a movement across the country, and fathers are stepping up to take their rightful place as responsible fathers.
Wow.
This is not about the bad dads. The bad dads aren't trying to come with custody. They're trying to avoid court. They're not paying child support, whatever. It's not against child support. This is about being a good dad.
Yes.
And I think dads, from what I've understood now, we've had 102 meetings for dads all around the country, as far as Missouri, California, Texas, New York, a lot of Florida dads, Georgia dads. And these dads all say, if you take the hat and pass it around, it's all the same issue, but just a little twist different per dad. And the dads that want time with their kid, the other side is not trying to help them, is they're trying to be bitter, trying to stop them because the relationship didn't work out. They're like, okay, I got you. I'm keeping my child.
Right. Yeah.
Not right. They need to stop that because they're hurting the dad, yes.
Yeah.
You're hurting the child because the child, like we talked about earlier, misses out on this relationship with the other family.
Right. Yeah.
And then for some dads, like, okay, I'll go make another child. It's easy. I know what to do. I did it the first time. Go make another baby and forget about it. Then the kid grows up. They're upset because they didn't have their dad at their high school graduation or kindergarten class or whatever. And the prom came, and maybe the child went through something and the father wasn't there, and they finally find their dad. And he's a deadbeat now because
of all he went through or didn't get an opportunity to go through.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about this book that you have?
Yes. So I wrote the book two months after I got cussed.
And the title?
It's called Ethan's Good Dad Act. A father turns his lemons into lemonade so that all good dads can take a sip. And I got that title because I love lemonade. Every time I get a chance, a cold glass of lemonade. Okay. I said, let me coin that as part of, because you've heard that cliche. You have sour grapes or sour lemon. Yeah. Something about it. Put some sugar, some honey, make it happen.
Yes.
So I was able to turn this bad thing that happened in my life, my son's life, into something positive, not only for me, but for dads I'll never know around the country. Right. And let me tell you, it's an international thing. I've talked to different organizations of parents in South Africa, in UK, in my research, internationally, even India. I talked to a dad the other day from India, and they have the same issue. When they break up with the mom or the mom break up with them, they go to court, they get slammed. They don't get any rights. They have to fight for their kid in different parts of the world. So this book chronicles what I went through for my son. And then I've actually got stories because we started this podcast probably a month after the law change in Florida. So I go to the stories of many of the dads in here and show how they have been resilient as well, working through the process to see their children again, how it's helped just change their lives and their children's lives.
Yeah. That's
the
amazing.
Book does that, and the book gives some great advice to them how to compose yourself in court, how to deal with your child's mother, in a way that can help you to mend that relationship if it's possible. Some relationships can't be fixed. So at some point, there's that serenity prayer. God, give me the peace and serenity to change what I can, but to
Yes.
understand the things that I can't change, to
Sure.
let it go and
Yeah.
just focus on the good things
Yeah.
can change.
I mean, this is amazing. And I just want to thank the audience for joining this episode. We have Dr. Bernard Jennings here with Ethan's Good Dad Act, and is just doing some amazing things as it continues to go beyond the 6 states. And it is an international and a national issue. Absolutely. And I know just from my experience and seeing men that I know who have concerns and are very angry sometimes that they can't see their children, even though they do all the right things. They're not deadbeats, you know. They are on the birth certificate, but they just don't get the rights simply because they don't get along with the woman anymore. And being a woman, you know, sure, we're very sensitive in a lot of ways, but then again, it takes two, right? And especially when you're willing, and we have so many dads out there who, for whatever reason, can't be who they need to be. So when there's a dad out there who wants to be who they need to be, we need to allow them to step up. So I really appreciate this time that you've spent and just talking about this, especially the mentoring component of it, you know, because I know you have a background. And can you just tell a little bit about your background? Because I know it's not just what you're doing now. You've been doing a lot in the community over the course of years.
But I want to first say, thank you for your point that you made, JT, because, a lot of fathers, a lot of men are walking around with PTSD. As men, we don't talk about failed relationships, not even with others, with their best friend or a group of men coming together. We're talking about sports, we're talking about business, talking about how to make a deal or whatever's going on, or talking about the next event we're going to go to, football game. But we're not talking about our failed relationship and the fact that we can't see our child. But then we're triggered by some other thing that's going on, road rage, somebody cut us off in traffic, and because we're harboring that anger and don't have a place to let it out, we react.
Right.
Sometimes too emotionally on that when it's not that big of a deal what happened, but we're pent up,
Yeah.
And talking to these dads around the country, I realized that that's going on all over the place. And in my private life, I'm certified by the Florida Supreme Court as a mediator, so I mediate cases out of the circuit court, where I have a party come, another party come, and help them to settle their issue without going to trial. I get referrals by the judge or by a particular party to do that. And I also serve on the board of trustees of Florida Memorial University, a school where I went to get my undergrad degree, and I also serve on the board of the Foundation for Youth and Economic Development, which is a nonprofit arm of a county program called the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, which they have a teen court program where kids that get in trouble in school from 12 to high school, 12 years in high school, they go before a court of their peers. A student acts as a judge, a student acts as a jury, a student acts as a prosecutor, and a student acts as a defense attorney, and they have court. And the child who's the offender for whatever they did wrong, skip school, something minor, instead of putting them in juvenile court, they take it there and they actually, the kids say, hey, they're kind of harsh on these sentences, but the recidivism rate is like 4%. Kids don't get in trouble again after they get scolded by their peers. They straighten up. So that's some of the stuff that I do in my private life. But I spend a lot of time now working on this because I'm only at 6 states and I need to go through all 50. I got 40 left.
Do you have I know you are mentoring, but do you have like a place where, let's say someone wants to come on board and help you in that side of it?
Yes, if they go to the website gooddadact.com and scroll down on that first page, there's a place where they can become a team leader in their state or a team or a member of the Good Dad Act committee. And if they become a member of the Good Dad Act committee, they get to be live on this podcast that we have. It's not live every week because sometimes we want dads to talk to each other. This past Tuesday night at 8:00, every Tuesday, we had Judge Gordon Murray, who's actually a circuit court judge here in Miami-Dade County where I live. And the prior week to that, we had a lady by the name of Marilyn Peer, who's an attorney in the state of Maryland. And she's actually campaigning to become a judge in the state of Maryland. So we have different professionals come. Sometimes we'll have a private investigator come, or some other practitioner, a counselor that counsels men and parents. We had a gentleman from Georgia named Chris Latson, who's the director of a program called Chance Fatherhood, where they do different mentorship programs for men and their children. So doing that, we have a very variety of people coming to talk to these dads about their mental health, about their legal challenges, how to compose themselves in court, how to be motivated and be able to be positive even though this is going on with them and they're dealing with not being able to see their child and going through court. It's very hard for some dads, and we just try to shepherd them through the process. So if they want help personally, we actually have counseling. If you need personal counseling or consultation, how to navigate your case, dads in this Google Meet, they actually talk to each other, and they share their phone numbers and help each other coach. We have some dads are like on the borderline of suicide, crying that they haven't seen their kid in so long.
Oh gosh,
I get emails, I get texts about it. So I'm dealing with it on a different level with these dads, talking to them. If you got a problem, call me. Don't go do nothing crazy because you haven't seen your kid in 2 months and you went to pick him up and the court order says you can get him and they're still not letting you get your kid. Call me and let me coach you what to do.
Wonderful. So there is a phone number on the website as well.
Yeah, my phone number is 786-486-7217.
Can you say that one? Yep.
786-486-7217. And if they want to get a copy of this book was actually ranked #1 on Amazon in child advocacy and divorce and family law, the #1 bestseller at Amazon.
Nice.
So the book is available on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, Target.com, or you can go to the website ethansgooddadact.com and order the book.
And say the title again of the book.
www.ethansgooddadact.com.
Okay.
And you get the book. The book's only $16 on paperback. It's like $24 on, and the book is great. I have it right here. The book is a good book. It's a short read. It's only 204 pages. Okay. I think dads that have read it have come like, listen, thank you so much. It let me know. It gave me hope. Yeah. And that's what we all want when we're going through. We all go through trials and tribulations, whatever it is. Parent dies, an uncle dies, a relative, break up with a couple, either with a child or out. And then you got to figure out, like, how do I get past this moment to get to my next success? Everything is a stepping stone of a lesson to something else. And how do you get past that and better yourself so that you can be better? Even in a failed relationship, when you have a breakup, you should focus on fixing yourself. You may not be broken, but there's things you can do, self-improvement, the way you look, the way you feel, the way you're eating, so that when you meet the next person, you're a better person. You've learned from what happened, Yes. So regardless of what's going on, you got to have a positive outlook. You can't let the negativity bring you down. There's a lot of negative going on in the world right now. We have to stay positive.
Have to stay positive and know that you're not alone in it also. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Jennings. You are now an official living manuscript. A story in motion. So yay. Thank you so much. Before we go, is there if you could just give one thing in terms of your truth, one truth that you have, whether it is because of this journey, or what will move forward from this journey, or just something personal, but one piece of truth you like to share with our audience here.
I think one piece of truth is that you have to be authentic and have integrity in things that you're doing and have the faith in yourself. There's something called fear, false evidence appearing real. That will stop you from doing things that you want to do in your regular life, much less having an issue. So you have to move past the fear of what may happen and focus on the things that you can change and what you can do and have the integrity about it. Do things fairly, treat people right, help people when you can, and just move forward in life like that so that the good blessings can come to you. There is such a thing as karma. I believe in God. I believe in karma, faithful person. And you got to do your part to do the right things. Things are going to happen negative to you, but you got to see the forest through the trees. You got to move that stuff apart and stay focused on what you want to do in life, and things will work themselves out. You might not work it out when you wanted to, but if you're consistent, like we've had these meetings, we've never missed a Tuesday in the last 102 weeks. That's 2 Christmases and a New Year's. I've been in other parts of the world traveling and still got on that Zoom call and that Google call to make sure these dads see me. Listen, I'm not missing, because it's consistency. In a relationship, you need consistency. Whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, if you're consistent, you become trustworthy. You become trustworthy, then you can make things happen, because as you do things, they realize the good in what you're doing, not the mistakes you're making. People are going to make mistakes, but let's work through that, get to the next thing. So thank That's my
Yes.
truth, I think.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on and speaking your truth, everyone. I want to thank you for joining this episode of Mindset to Manuscript with JT. Speak your truth. Please follow us at mindset2manuscript.com. If you want to sponsor an episode or a season, please log on to our website. Please follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and we'll be all on all channels where you have your podcast and you're listening. So I appreciate you being here, Dr. Jennings. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to follow up with you as you expand upon the states that this Good Dag Act is in. Until then, everyone, thank you for joining. And I'm JT.
Mindset to Manuscript, hosted by JT Key.